All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Takedown Breakdown, talking all things Week 7, DraftKings, GPPs, winning lineups, close calls, etc. Got my guy Nades here with me, as always, going to break it all down and more. We'll get to the perfect lineup. We'll look at the $10, the $100, break down some of the stuff with my sweat that I had yesterday, almost the double entendre. I told you we had that Millie Maker momentum. It was very close, and I coined a new term, Nades, coming in real hot, coming in stilted. Still tilted from yesterday, and it didn't get any better overnight, my friend, but nobody cares. Work harder. We'll talk about that and more. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Doing good. Wasn't a good Sunday for me. I didn't have quite as bad a beat as you did, but hey, the best part about it is the hindsight, right? Putting yourself in those chances. One of these times it's going to pay off, and I know that doesn't make things any easier, but I'm sure a lot of people had kind of similar stuff. But overall, wild Sunday yesterday. I'll tell you that right off the top. I mean, injuries galore all over the place. National Flag League. I thought I was watching a flag retape on NFL Red Zone, but nonetheless, wild Sunday. But I still think we can pull some. Pull some tidbits out of these winning lineups, because some of them aren't as crazy as what the perfect lineup's going to show for sure.
Yeah, shout out to Go Collect first in, Illini fan though. Always love looking back, seeing how never stop grinding and learning. That's what it's all about. Certainly what we plan to do. Just got the breaking news confirmed to what we already thought. Deshaun Watson has confirmed it's a ruptured Achilles, so he's done. We'll talk about him. He was actually in the lineup that I was tilted by as well, so we'll talk about that and more. But I think just going through some of it, the biggest thing is that it's what you said off the top is no matter what happens, there's always something you can learn from it. And secondary, someone always has it worse than you do. Someone always has it better. Like you have to live like that. That's certainly how it is. Be grateful for the things that you do have. Be grateful that you can wake up again today, get back after it. If I win a milli or 2 milli or live final seat yesterday, it's something I want. It's not something that I need. We'll get right back to the grind today and get after it. So let's start as usual. Let's get the perfect lineup brought up. You did say it, though. It was certainly an injury-riddled slate, and I forgot we get those every now and again during the season, right, where it's like just takes 185 points to ship a milli after scoring's back. We're going to score 300 points now every week, and it's going to be awesome. Nope, 185 to take down all the major tournaments and stuff. So one of those things. Obviously, this is a bit tricky, Nades, because with Jaden Daniels' early injury, even though he came back out in a sweatsuit fine, sounds like he's going to be okay. A few more tests today. But he, no point coming back. It was 27-0 at the half. So there's no need of showing back up. So it is going to be a little bit of fool's gold, but 219 is way more. Like it's still 200, even if you took a 0 here. So plug in any other quarterback and you could call it in this range, give or take, and you could call it a day. But I'll kick it over to you, Nades. Go through this perfect lineup here.
Yeah, I mean, kind of interesting. Obviously, Marcus Mariota thing doesn't really make sense there. But the Joe Mixon play, direct leverage right off of Tank Dell. Still, I mean, we saw it's been Joe Mixon's backfield. He came back last week, right, and absolutely dusted. Obviously, he kept them in this game, had a couple big runs there. But the biggest thing that I take away is how somebody could get to the Joe Mixon play. We're going to review it in a couple of the Millie Maker winners, right, get into that play. Direct leverage in the same team, same spot off of Tank Dell in a good game. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Saquon Barkley, revenge season. I mean, this dude was literally sitting there with the old Zeke, the old Zeke let him eat gif that you see in Discord. I mean, that was Barkley all day. Revenge factor there. Not only that, $100 more than Kyron Williams at I think less than a tenth of the ownership, something like that. I mean, right. So right there, the Cedric Tillman play. I mean, that's kind of fluky there, but I will say it's also leverage off of the David Njoku, who did get there, obviously. But the Elijah Moore, right? $200 less on the same team than Elijah Moore there. The Keon Coleman, when everyone was saying, Amari Cooper this, Amari Cooper that, he still did get there. But, I mean, how you could have got to something like that. And then just the combo pack of the Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs and just saying, hey, I'm going to take these two guys and I'm going to have another quarterback in my stack that's going to outscore Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs gets it done on the ground, right? He did it luck box a little bit, right, with the Montgomery missing some time in the game there. And Amon-Ra is just a PPR monster that he is, right? So I think that makes some sense there. And the Jonnu play, I mean, that's just a onesie position, right? Fill it there. Tyler Huntley under quarterback. They're going to have to pass the ball there. But only that, he's also leveraged off of the tight end position there, right? For a lot of the chalkier guys, right, that were in that range, the Grant Contreras, the a little bit cheaper than Colby Parkinson, right? A little bit cheaper than Zach Ertz. So still some leverage right there, how you could get to that play. And then the Rams D in that afternoon window. I know a lot of people paired Rams D up with Kyron Williams. That was a very popular stack there with Aiden O'Connell under center there in Vegas and all the injuries they had there. And overall, I mean, you still can pull some things from this wild lineup outside of obviously the Mariota injury piece. But
yeah, it would have to go up to somebody else and drop down somewhere else, and that's fine because, again, it scores well over. But this just showcases what we know on an injury-riddled slate like we've already talked about when, these are all one percenters, or, I'm calling them one percenters. They're all very low ownership versus the field. It wasn't like some weeks where we see the perfect lineup is mostly chalk and then, just different variations of it or one-offs, and we can find a lot of things. You mentioned the Tank Dell one, the Kyron Williams one. Elijah Moore was certainly one. I had him in the lineup that I'll show you guys later. That was a brutal, run out there, but still. And then the ability to put like two expensive guys from the same team is just from the cheap quarterback going in there. But you could get away with that yesterday. There was a lot of lineups where you could still build out a stack of the Watson one. Watson, Moore, Njoku, or Tillman Njoku, and you could still get like a Jefferson and something else in there, two more expensive guys. But yeah, definitely lots of tight ends. I had a keynote in the slate plan over at SHIPIT Nation this week that it was a 2 tight end week. I said that's going to be a possibility for sure. Just the way the value is on the slate and the pricing set it up. It took us back to last year. Really thought, could pay it off. But that's it for the main. I think that's sort of the main thing people wanted to look at. We'll hop over to the $10 Millie Maker winner. And like I said, only took 185 to win it. Didn't have some of the key plays that we just looked at. Like Mixon didn't even make the lineup, for example. But just overall, another interesting build, Nades. If you look at this one, Darnold, Gibbs, Jefferson, Amon-Ra. There's your 4-man game stack. Then you got Kareem Hunt and Mecole Hardman, who, I don't know, maybe could be a late swap as well. You just never know. It was the late game, the last game. Maybe they late swap to it. Who knows? But then Moore and Njoku versus the Cincinnati defense to round it out. So I'll let you talk through this one real quick. I'm going to pull up the H-Man. Had 18 lineups here. You can talk through the lineup, though, if you want.
Yeah, I think, right, everybody, the Detroit-Minnesota game was the game of the slate, right? People were saying the game of the year, all of these things, and just going in there and stacking it a different way, right? The conventional single stack with Darnold, but having the 2 run backs, right, with Darnold's going to outscore Jared Goff, and Gibbs and Amon-Ra coming back are going to be the guys. So I think that's interesting. And then just keying in on Justin Jefferson, he was one of the best plays on the slate yesterday for a good reason, right? That's why he's 20+% owned at 8,500 is the most expensive player on the slate. And all of his history, right? Everybody loves the history and the game logs, right? So all the talk was, oh my God, Justin Jefferson absolutely owns this guy. And he even didn't even hit his ceiling, right? And still got there. I think that's an interesting route that I pulled is everybody was going in and doing a double stack with the quarterback mainly in this game and then 1 run back. So doing a single stack with 2 run backs, I think was an interesting way to get a little bit different there. The Kareem Hunt play, I really like that because it was leverage off of a lot of the chalky running backs on the slate, right? The Tony Pollard's $300 less than Tony Pollard on the slate. But not only that, you're also kind of leveraging a little bit on the same team there because Juju was projected for a 30+% ownership, right? Everyone's saying Juju is the new poor man's Rashee Rice there. So I think the Kareem Hunt, that's $500 cheaper than Chuba Hubbard, $300 cheaper than Tony Pollard, right? I think makes a lot of sense there. And then you're just grabbing the value guy. I mean, Mecole Hardman, they could have been a late swap to your point, kind of luck boxed into that last touchdown, right? That Mecole had there. But overall, I mean, I think that makes some sense. And then the Elijah Moore and David Njoku thing, I saw that was a pretty common. You talk about this all the time, right? You're getting a combo pack, right, for what, 7,300, which is less than most of those expensive wide receivers. And they're shorthanded there. They're going to be in a trailing script for the most part. And Njoku can get the check downs, and Elijah Moore is wide receiver. I mean, you can argue wide receiver 1, right? In that offense. So I know that was a pretty common thing. And you talk about those combo packs all the time, right? It's not about what each one does individually. It's what they both do totally for your roster.
Yeah, the chat mentioned could say the Hardman pivot was over Juju possibly at a similar price point, just a little bit cheaper. Maybe I couldn't really find a 2v2 swap. Like if it was, to start the afternoon, if they had Chuba Hubbard in there or something at 65, it wouldn't have been enough. It already would have been something a little bit cheaper. So I don't know what it might have been if they did do that, but he had 18 lineups. He or she had 18 lineups. I just looked it up. Did have a pretty spread exposure, so I'm not quite sure how they ended up there, and then even to start it. But this was just a prime example of what I was talking about earlier too, where most cases when people see a lineup like this, and we looked at these last week, even our guy Hoop had some lineups like this where he had 3 Atlanta guys, but no Kirk Cousins. But he still did have conventional stack the other way. This was where, you're going with, if Jefferson has a big game, it's probably Darnold or Goff that are involved. He ended up getting 2 the expensive guys there that helped pay off. Even on this slate, that was more than enough. Still fit some other stuff in, but, just putting the little cheap combo pack is a fine way to do it. You don't necessarily need it. Now, he could have went to Watson at 4,900 and found $1,500 to upgrade. I'm not sure if 4,800 would have found you a better play here, but just to say it, you had 200 left over, the 1,300 dropping down. But just to note, this move is fine. I've got no problem with this. Defenses against flexes, especially cheap flexes, is never going to be a thing. This is just a proving point for those that automatically just go away from this, especially tonight. We got a 2-game slate coming up. Hoop, Title, and myself will be on here to review that in about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. But, that's even more prevalent in the smaller slates. But just on the main slate, look, 15 points, and then almost 34 combined between these two. You can get there still. A defense isn't built on shutouts, where you just expect them to get a shutout and that solves everything. Yeah, it's great if you can get it, but it's not the only way you score points. So just proving again that you can do it. But I would say a much more conventional build. They did hone in on the popular spots. If you go over to SHIPITNation.com for a second, and I just deleted everything here because, of course, why not? Still week 7, so hopefully this one gets better. But just note it. This was a target game for us. So the Vikings and the Lions was a target game. We talked about that. We talked about the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven, Small Dogs in week 7. The Lions, big time spot there. You go to our stack rankings, Njoku, Elijah Moore, Darnold, Jefferson. If you're not playing Jared Goff, you got Amon-Ra by himself. You've got Gibbs from down there that you can go to. If you're not playing the Kansas City guys, you can go to Hunt. If you're, playing some of the other stuff, you could fit it in. So I just think, this was a good example of going against using some of the tools here. You could still use the tools to find your way to this build, but I thought this was a good one. Anything else you want to talk about with the $10 Millie Maker nades?
No, overall, I think this obviously, right, it makes a lot more sense, quote unquote, than last week in some other previous Millie Makers we won. And I think you're going to have that, right, when scoring's kind of not absolutely crazy, right, and 230 is winning the Millie Maker, right? You're going to have a lot more conventional builds, right, with not as much ceiling, right, because overall, but that's part of the game, right? Part of the game, you have to have luck on your side too, and you got to avoid the landmines, you got to avoid that. So overall, pretty good build for sure.
Yeah, and even again, talking about bad, look, Heavens G, speaking of week 7 in heaven here, 100,000 to wipe their tears in, but 900K shy. And look at the build. Goff, Gibbs, Jones, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, the same Elijah Moore and Njoku. The defense, they're probably pissed, right, that they didn't have something like this where they're seeing that Cincinnati D against their guys, because they would never build that way probably. But, get to wipe their tears in 100K, but still 900K shy, being that close to the millie. It's kind of one of those things. So certainly nice to make 100K and still pay it off, but obviously got to be a tough break getting close to a millie and not actually closing the door. Ship My Money, great player down there. Just trying to see who else, if anybody else, had a good day based on names that I would know. Bro, really great player across all sports. Just trying to see. Rough day for the Sharks. Shout out to our boy Hamhawk. He had a run up there, 165 in there. So Epi. There was some good options up there, just getting their plays in, but the overall, a lot of names that I'm not as familiar with, at least. So I'll put it that way. So let's go Let's go to the $100 Millie Maker, a name that I am familiar with, and shout out to Eric. Great dude, need lunch money. Been fortunate enough to meet him at a few live finals in the past. Met his brother, brought his whole family actually to the year in New Orleans. He had 9 entries, and he literally brought everyone, grandparents and all. It was pretty awesome to see. I thought it was a cool way to do it, but a Millie Maker win for him. He dusted the field, 180 points. Really nice score there versus what everybody else was up to. And his lineup, Nades, was Geno, DK Metcalf, Noah Fant. Looks like no run back. Got Mixon, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, the Juju chalk, the Njoku chalk, and then the Washington defense. Give me your thoughts on this lineup.
Yeah, first thing I say is, not running it back, right, with a Bijan Robinson, which most people are going to do in the game like this, right, a Bijan Robinson or a Drake London. And that would have probably costed it. I mean, he dusted the field here, but, going Bijan Robinson over a Joe Mixon, right, to get that run back. Or Jahmyr Gibbs, I think is the biggest thing. So not having Drake London or Bijan Robinson and just saying, hey, it's going to be hopefully kind of spread out with is it going to be Mooney? Is it going to be Ray McLeod? Is it going to be Bijan Robinson? Is it going to be Kyle Pitts? Right? There's just so many options. And I think it's an interesting way and just, hey, taking the Geno side and just hope the scoring or that Seattle just kind of rolls them, right, which happens. So I think that's an interesting route because everybody kind of forces run backs. That's how I build. I know that's how you build, but just not always having to do that, especially in a field like this where it's not quite as top heavy, right, where it's with 200 some thousand entries that $10 had. Obviously, there's only 27,000 in this contest. So a little bit different there. I think that's a good play. It's pretty crazy. He dusted the field by 15 points, right, and had Juju in there with a 0, which is crazy. But the same combo pack with the Gibbs and Amon-Ra, that's pretty sharp play there. But overall, I think it's a good. We already hit on the Mixon leverage off of Tank Dell there overall, and just eating the chalk, but sprinkling low plays around it, I think is very interesting, right? The Washington defense, right? When people are trying to make Darnold stacks work with Deontay Johnson, Chuba Hubbard against the chalk, going Washington when you're not in that game, I think it was a great play. And they're 3%, right? They're also $100 more than the projected Bengals defense, who was projected to come in massive chalk on the week. Didn't happen to turn out that way, right? They still did good, but $100 more than the chalkiest defense going up against the chalkiest running back on the slate as well.
Yeah, I've been harping on this one quite a bit lately. Again, it's never a free square. Luckily, the result happened for him and for others, but it's when you're going up against it. We know Chuba Hubbard, Deontay Johnson, we're going to be popular. You go to the Los Angeles Rams defense against Las Vegas. We knew Trey Tucker was a super popular value play. It's just a defense against a guy. If you're not landing on Trey Tucker, why not land on that defense? We saw in the previous winner in the $10 Millie Maker where you can go against your players anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But that was another thing, is Cincinnati going against the popular Njoku. Got still a great defensive play on the slate. So it's kind of looking at it from that perspective. You get extra leverage built in that way. The second place lineup did have Bijan at $100 cheaper, 26.3, but ownership almost 15% versus 8. I wonder if just the way he sets it up, maybe I'll dig into that in a second, but just to look, he already had a really popular quarterback for the slate. We know quarterbacks always get spread out, but it was basically Jaden Daniels and Geno Smith at the top. He had a mid-range Metcalf, but he had a super popular Juju and a super popular Njoku, so maybe not wanting to add that chalk threshold of a Bijan in there just naturally sets him to this lineup. And he's probably seeing in his portfolio, we went and looked here, and it always does this for him, but now you can learn how to get in. If you go to Fantasy Labs NFL contest dashboard, you just change it to the $100 Millie Maker. Go down to need lunch money at 150 lineups, 148 of which were unique. But you can see, what was I showing off there, Nades? It was something else I was going to say. The
Bijan the Bijan. So what was his exposure on Bijan?
Oh, yeah. You can go to here and you can check his lineups and just start scrolling through some of them. And this ends up being the winner, so I don't need to look at that again. But 1, 2, 3. I mean, he could have got a Bijan in, so it wasn't anything he was blocking with total ownership. I'll tell you that much, because this lineup basically has Bijan in it. So maybe he just had other variations, and it's just a possibility that within his portfolio it sort of slipped to that. But I do think that's an angle to look at when you are digging into this stuff. Obviously, I do deeper dives and stuff like that. Yes, that was mentioned by Andrew.
Yeah, I want to pull this up because, I mean, you look at this contest field versus the other ones, right? I mean, there's a lot of sharp players that use 2 tight end this week, to Tambo's point, right? Because of value, right? When Juju Smith-Schuster is your most popular value, right? People are calling this dude dust, right? He was coming in with a hamstring designation. You got Trey Tucker, you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got Elijah Moore, right? Those are your best values on the week. When you have tight end number ones that are cheaper or right similar price to those guys that you know are going to get targets, you know they're heavily involved in the offense. Anytime you have a situation like that, it just makes sense, right? But everyone's always is kind of in the mindset, oh, tight ends are not wide receivers, they're blockers or this, they're ceiling. They don't have a ceiling, right? It's just slate dependent. And a lot of sharp players, I think if you go through a lot, I mean, even the second place lineup was 2 tight ends too.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think that was a bigger takeaway. So we can look into this and deep dive it versus what people are probably thinking. To your point, like I brought it up for that reason. But when you're 7 weeks into the season or going on week 7, which we were yesterday, heading into the slate, you do have a little bit more information. It's most certain that Njoku is not just a blocker. We know that. It's not just that you have to fill a tight end spot. It's not just that he's 4,100 and Amari Cooper's obviously no longer there. It's you got to look at him almost like a wide receiver 1 or 2. At this, he's just at this position, but then you could fill it in. Like obviously based on the way the slate went, both these games were in the morning. It didn't matter where he put them in at, but to me, he's treating this as like Noah Fant fills the spot and I may as well use a cheap tight end with my quarterback to double stack. If Geno gets there, let's hope it's a double. Let's get DK all the way and let's get Noah Fant into the mix, but he's just using Njoku as a value play in the flex. Is he very popular? Yeah, but does it come with good reason? Yeah. And not as many people will build. I know some people said in the Discord they turned off the tight ends in the flex because they always do. Well, it's not always every week. It's week 7 is week 7. It has nothing to do with week 6. It's a new slate at hand. It's new matchups. Yesterday was Aaron Jones. Can't score a touchdown against this run D. Bang, 35-yarder out of the gates. Like I said, this is the thing. It's not predicting it. It's what other people think can't happen for whatever reason they believe it can happen. We've seen it. I'll go through my sweat from yesterday in a minute, and a lot of things can and can't happen. Let me tell you that much. So just one of those things, but overall, shout out to Eric. Great lineup. Love to see this. And yeah, just continued success. Wishing the best, man. Just awesome job. Again, E. Hafner is back. He's been in the mix the last few weeks. They had a huge week. I think it was last week or the week before. He's back up there. Another Geno lineup. Here he had Geno. Kenneth Walker, who you can definitely stack, made a better catch than some of these wide receivers make out there. So these guys are very versatile. Him, Metcalf, he had the London, Pitts, the 5-man stack. Use these two. So this combo pack, they're getting more and more popular, and you see the sharper players using them. I talk about this all the time. This is another way just to, and cutting into it, Nades. So what? Njoku's 22% if you're going to play an 8% more. And you could have went to Tillman, who was even cheaper, got you $200 and a little bit different there too. Maybe, what would that have been? Washington D was $200 more. Tillman, a bunch more. Not saying he would have got there, but to this lineup, but getting 6 more points here, and what is it? 8 more points here is 14. It's really close. It's really close. It's first or second in there, but again, that's hindsight. Looking back at it, E. Hafner, one of the best to ever do it. So congrats to him. Another good run in the mix. But anything else you see with this one, Nades? I'm going to go to my lineup here if you want to talk through some others here, and then we'll go to it from there.
No, overall, I think that combo pack is we've seen this quite a few times, right? And everyone thinks, oh, when I'm playing 2 guys, I have to use it with the quarterback. Well, good thing. I mean, if you have an optimizer like the Shiptimizer, we have those kind of rules that you can make built in to the optimizer. So all of your lineups are literally easily able to be constructed. This is the greatest optimizer. Literally, I've used them all, and we're partnered with some of them across the industry. This literally makes it so easy to do things like that, where you can allow 2 players from the same team to be on the same roster without the quarterback, right? So overall, having an optimizer to help give you teams like that in an MME portfolio, even if you're MMEing the 20 max, right, for 10 cents or 25 cents, right? You still want to build good lineups to give yourself a chance. It's not just clicking a button and throwing them in there. But good news is Shiptimizer saves you a ton of time. If you do want to click a button and still have a shot to be competitive, Shiptimizer has everything built in to help you right there. So
use presets is crucial. What you just talked about, like you can go here. The benefit is we kind of treat it the Tutorial, by the way, is free. If you go to SHIPIT Nation, you can just look this up. Go under Shiptimizer, click tutorials, and you can play through and see what it's all about. But if you're looking for an optimizer that's cheaper than for the whole site is cheaper than just some optimizers out there, more affordable, you can see it this way. But we talked about it this way. Players, you can just set up your exposures min-max. So you can sort of do like the beginner's stage of just creating a pool, building up to 300 lineups and taking them from there. The intermediate, though, is what you talked about. It's here with this build settings. You can use it to your own advantage. This is what I was saying. Yesterday, a lot of people just turn this down to 0 and they don't want any tight ends in their flex. You could set it up to like 25%. You could set it up yesterday to 40, like you were willing to get more in there. And even if you don't know what you're doing, you can use the presets. These are the presets from like 5 years worth of Millie Maker history to set it up how these winning Millie Maker lineups are building their lineups so that you're guaranteed to get certain bracketed ownership, guys under a certain percentage owned. You're guaranteed to get at least some of these flex parameters. You get some randomness. You're keeping your total ownership a little bit lighter, but not too light. You're keeping your salary in the range of what people have been using, all that and more. So check that out. That's a way to do it. Let's talk about why I said off the top of the show, I'm still tilted. New term I'm coining. This was the lineup, Nate, and it was a Deshaun, Tillman, Njoku, run back with T. Higgins. It had Kyron Williams with his defense. It had a secondary stack in that last game of Kareem Hunt and George Kittle. It had the double tight end, and it fit Justin Jefferson, who I thought was one of the best plays on the slate, into it. So I couldn't have asked for a better setup. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good setup of leverage built into it, and then you let go of the wheel and you see what happens on a Sunday. But this was a lineup I was pretty impressed with. I was happy with it all the way. With about 3 minutes left in the LA game, third quarter, not fourth. 3 minutes left in the third quarter and 10 minutes left in the Kansas City game. It was 20-6, I believe, for LA. Perfect spot for Kyron Williams just to run out the clock and for the defense to tee off. The other game was 16-14 with 10 minutes left in the third quarter with Kareem Hunt and George Kittle. I had 154 points and I finished at 160. So I had it in the $10 milli, I had it in the $100 milli, and I had it in the $50 live final. And that one, I thought, if nothing else, was at least going to get me 7 points. I needed 7 points out of all of that. Vultured by Mahomes, did not get in. Kittle, there was a penalty flag on one of the catches where they accepted it, so it's no catch, and they just gained the 5 yards. So I hated to see that. That ended up costing him the bonus. And then lastly, since nobody cares, work harder, we'll just get out of the way, just empty my system. I'm only human, Nades. 76 yards or more for every single player, not one hit the bonus. So legitimate chance. I mean, you get 8 more points in this lineup and you're in second for 100,000. The touchdown from, Hunt, the catch in the bonus, whatever from Kittle, just so many ways to get there, but that's the way it goes. That's DFS. Insult to injury. Then was the showdown slate last night. I woke up because I was so tilted about this. I just went to bed, woke up to see I came with the second best lineup in that. So we're close and week 7 is not over. There's a great 2-gamer tonight. We're going to get it all back and more. If you haven't had a good week already yet, remember, there's always more slates ahead. That's the beauty of the game that we play. We know what we signed up for, but any thoughts on the lineup, Nades? I thought it was a good build, strong build, especially for the field size and the tournaments that I was playing within.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good build. The T. Higgins, obviously you used him in a game stack here, right? Because you didn't get up to Chase because you were spending on Jefferson. But not only that, T. Higgins was leverage off of DK Metcalf. It was leverage off of Deontay Johnson, leverage off of Tank Dell, who are all more expensive than him, all much more popular games. And while T. Higgins still got to 8% or whatnot, I mean, he was projected to be unowned. And I mean, Tank Dell was projected to be way more popular there. So overall, I think that was a great leverage play. I really love the secondary stack with Kareem Hunt and George Kittle. I brought that up in the YouTube chat when you guys were breaking that down as well. I thought that was an amazing way, right? Kareem Hunt, he's clear, right? They went out and signed this dude when he was on the streets, right? They clearly love this dude. You saw it last week, heavily involved. They're very well capable of just handing the ball off and giving it a Kareem Hunt, right? When he's $300 less than what Travis Kelce was, right? Kelce was projected to be getting play, right? Everyone is saying, oh, tight ends in this game. So how can you play Kittle, who's unowned? Pair him with Kareem Hunt, right? Kareem Hunt gets it done. They're right? Mahomes has all the injuries in the world. They're very well just handed off to him, and then Kittle gets it going back on the other side. Super frustrating, super tilted with Kittle there. I mean, he had the perfect run out too. Perfect game script. Ayuk getting injured, right?
Oh, yeah, Ayuk, Debo out. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Ayuk. I mean, looks like he's probably done for the year there. But I mean, everything was just there. So many guys just near missed, right? DK Metcalf getting hurt 1 yard, everything like that, right? Overall, but no, great build, super good leverage built into here, and just taking the onesie stud position with Jefferson, right, and not having to run it back when he's 8,500, and the run backs are expensive. I think is another interesting play and smart move.
Yeah, I will say this: the $1 million mission continues, so we're gonna keep working at that. We'll try and get there. But I was happy too that I followed my own rules, right? Like, remember last week? If you go back to last week, and we talked about reviewing it and then coming back and sort of putting your stuff to good work. I really stuck with everything. Like, if I go with my Kyron, I talked on the show yesterday. I kind of wanted them with the Rams D. I wanted that to be a way where they're getting the ball and they're up and they're doing double work. I talked about this last week, Nades, where I wanted Chase. Remember, I played Chase in the wrong spot. I said that I really went, or no, it was Lamb. I think it was. I wanted Lamb with Dak, and I just used him because I talked about this combo plenty. So using Chase here could have worked, but I actually really only like Chase more with Burrow because I think he's going to bring Burrow along. It's going to be a big game for Burrow. So I was happy to go Higgins here because he can still rack up the PPR points. Justin Jefferson is someone I've always talked about where I don't think you need. I literally said this on the show yesterday about Darnold. Justin Jefferson could get you 10, 150, and 0, not really bring Darnold all the way to the finish line, but still really crush it from all the catches and receiving yards that he gets and the bonuses and stuff like that. So I was very comfortable. I wanted a piece of that game. I stuck to the games I was sticking with pretty much, all in and around those. This was one where I wasn't on the Washington and the Carolina game, but if you're not on that game, it's because I'm on, like I talked about yesterday, the Kansas City and the 49ers game. And in that one, it was just a perfect secondary stack, good tight end spots to use, two tight ends. Those were receiver type tight ends to use. The Tillman over more leverage because I needed one more spot in there to make it work, and it literally got me the perfect fit. So it didn't work out this time, but maybe it will next time. We still had a nice sweat, good run down the stretch, and a shot at pretty much everything. And just nothing came together, but that's what it's all about. That's why we play the game. We know what we sign up for, and we're excited to get back into it tonight. We will be back in just about an hour and a half, Hoop, Title, and myself right here on this channel. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, and we're going to keep it rolling. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube. If you like this content, all the stuff that's free, that's all you got to do. It takes 2 seconds to hit like, hit subscribe to the channel. Going to do some big giveaways at 9 and then even bigger at 10,000 when we get there. Nades, any final thoughts from you on this slate? Anything else that you wanted to discuss?
No, I think one, don't beat yourself up, right? When you look at your lineups and you got a lot of snowflakes in there, that's the biggest thing, right? Just your process, right? Sticking to your process, having a process. Hopefully you've been building a process, and this is a huge part of both of our processes, right? So just reviewing it, you got to realize, right, you're going to have days, and NFL is going to go the way sometimes it did in week 7, right? With the injuries, right? Jaden Daniels getting hurt, a bunch of guys just missing bonuses because of the injuries, blowouts, things like that are going to happen, right? But just sticking there to it. And you got 500K up top tonight in this 2-game or 2. So still plenty of money to be made.
Yeah, NBA coming back tomorrow. Super excited about that. Maybe we'll do that real quick because we're saving time. But you mentioned a key point I wanted to bring up too. I forgot. Remember, it was broken on me. And I said, what was I talking about? This was what I was going to show you. So Gino happened to be need lunch money. Eric, who I talked about earlier, who won the $100 Millie Maker, his highest owned quarterback. But other guys, busted. It's just to show, look, Pollard, 50% Pollard. Everyone said he sucked, worst game script. Another prime example. People are going to take this result and run with it. 16 carries and 6 targets. If at the start of the slate, somebody told you $6,300 on that slate, Pollard was going to get 16 carries and 6 targets, you wouldn't be scoffing at that, would you? So that's, again, look at what happened, not the result. Whittington had 40% of Whittington. He completely busted. A bunch of Juju, almost 20%. He busted. Parkinson, not a great day. 50% almost on him. So little things like that just go to show that's why you have the portfolio. That's why you're building around it to see what you can find. Mentioned it before, but NBA coming back tomorrow. We will have the Stone up shortly. I sent the preview in the Discord this morning. The Stone across all sports is the nuts. The Stone nuts, that is. We'll have the projections and ownership for both Classic and Showdown. 100K up top in Showdown tomorrow night. We'll have the slate plan with Hebrew and with BJ, the GPP core report, the cash core report, the slate plan, the slate info, and all the stuff in Discord. We do update our projections throughout the night, game set by game set, all the way to the end of the day so that you'll never miss out. If you want to get in on the action, you don't even need to use this code and you want to sign up for the all access. I'll just go back here. It's right at the top. We made it simple for you. Other sites are $89 a month just for NBA. You can get $85 a month for NFL, CFB, PGA, NBA, NHL, MMA, NASCAR, and the remaining playoffs during baseball. It also includes Shiptimizer for 6 of the 8 sports right now and any that we add in the future. So lock that in before it goes away. $85 monthly all access. It is not a first payment only. It covers you all the way through. If you're not a member or not going to be a member, I get it, but you're here. You should always be working on your game. Go down here, put your email in. It's completely free. Click send me lesson 1 and you'll get the full 5-day email education course talking about reviewing your mistakes, talking about some of the stats people make mistakes with during DFS, community, talking about people trying to get diamond in the roughs and ending up on horrible lineups because of it, and then talks more about optimizers like ours, Shiptimizer. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. For Nades, for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it!